Thank you for watching this two-part video summarizing the Mayport Resilience Study. This video explains how vulnerable the area's roads are to flooding now and in the future. Be sure to check out the second episode on options to make Mayport's roads more resilient to flooding after you've watched this video. In 2019, the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization, or North Florida TPO, conducted a resilience study. Its focus was on the vulnerability of the region's roadways to climate change stressors, including various types of flooding associated with sea level rise. The project mapped potentially vulnerable roadways and stormwater systems and developed a toolbox of potential adaptation actions. These concepts were incorporated into the region's 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan. One of the more vulnerable areas identified in this work is Mayport. The purpose of this study is to identify strategies to make roadways in the area more resilient. We're currently seeking public opinion on the resilience options.
The project area includes 3 roadway segments. Segment A, encompassing A1A from Wonderwood Drive to Fort George Ferry Terminal. Segment B, encompassing Wonderwood Drive from A1A to Mayport Road. And Segment D, encompassing Wonderwood Drive and Seminole Road from Mayport Road to Seminole Gate.
This study looks at 3 types of flooding. The first is what the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, calls a 100-year storm. This is a flooding event that has a 1% chance of happening in any year. This image shows what the Mayport area might look like during a 100-year event. It shows that most of the roadways around Mayport are very vulnerable to this kind of flood.
The second type of flood is storm surge. Storm surge happens when strong hurricane winds push water on shore. Our study looked at flooding that could occur during Category 1, 2, or 3 hurricanes. All roadways would likely be affected by a Category 1 storm surge, as shown by the green areas. Category 2 or 3 storm surge, the yellow and red areas respectively, just make the situation worse. For instance, a Category 2 storm surge could flood almost the entire naval station, including the airfield. Future sea level rise will increase the risk of storm surge flooding.
Sea levels are rising due to climate change. Seas have already risen about 8 inches in Florida since 1950. Recently, the rise has accelerated to about 1 inch every 3 years. Flooding from sea level rise is different from the 100-year flood or storm surge because it is permanent. How much sea level rise should we expect in the future? The question is difficult to answer because it depends on how society addresses its responsibility for climate change. A proactive approach could greatly reduce future sea level rise. A reactive approach could result in very high future sea levels. We examined a variety of common future sea level rise scenarios. For this study, we chose a scenario in the middle, shown by the red dotted line. This line, called the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers 2013 high curve, shows about ½ a foot of sea level rise by 2035, 2 feet by 2065, and 4.6 feet by 2100.
So how will sea level rise affect the Mayport area in the near future? This map shows about what a foot of sea level rise will look like. The blue areas are more than likely permanently flooded. The gold areas are as likely as not permanently flooded. This uncertainty is related to the precision of the models that predict interactions between land and water. Much of A1A could be affected by sea level rise by 2035.
In 2065, when seas could be 2 feet higher than today, A1A is severely affected, with large stretches permanently underwater. Sections of Wonderwood Drive and Seminole Road and Hannah Park could be affected as well.
And by 2100, more than 4 feet of sea level rise would mostly flood A1A and parts of Wonderwood Drive and Seminole Road and Hannah Park.
Because sea level rise is permanent, it makes flooding from storms and high tides worse. When we consider the interactions between sea level rise and other kinds of flooding, the risk of damage to infrastructure increases as time goes on. This figure presents the Department of Defense's regionalized sea level change and extreme water level scenarios. This analysis indicates that some vulnerable areas may be temporarily flooded by extreme water events years or decades before sea level rise permanently floods them. So, waiting until 2035 or 2065 to respond to sea level rise may be too late. Mayport's roadways are very vulnerable to present and future flood risks. In our next video, we will present options for adapting Mayport's roadways to this challenge. After watching this second video, please share your thoughts in our survey.